Hello everybody, welcome back to KSP POV where we play Kerbal Space Program in first person. Sorry for a later episode today. As of this recording right now, it's already 2.5 hours after I should have been posting this episode, so I can only imagine how late it's actually coming out now. But I want to thank you for your patience. This episode has taken probably about the entire week to put together, and even then I still am not quite there yet. I actually started I just barely got to the testing phase where I can actually start making things work, and then I realized, rather than not get an episode at all, I'll just let you in on what I've been working on and hopefully what we can get done soon. So, in the last episode of KXP, we made ourselves the Space Plane 5. Oh no, that is something different. We made... Where is it? The Space Plane 5, right here. So this is what we made in KXP, and this was actually pretty good. It got us up into orbit. It has more than enough fuel to get out to Joule and its other moons, and it has a little drill and convertitron on there to fuel it up, and the whole thing has little ScanSat abilities. So this is the goal, but the POV crowd was tasked to take this and turn it into a VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing plane, because they have a really crappy runway that is just not going to cut it. So we went over here into our game and we grabbed the Space Plane 5, and we started off just by putting some servos on there. The idea is that can flip like this, take off vertically, and then point forward, and then become a plane. However, as you notice here, even with all engines on, our thrust-to-weight ratio isn't above 1, so no matter what we do with these engines, it's not going to take off vertically. And that thrust-to-weight is including these back engines, which wouldn't be going, so we actually have a TWR of 33. Not going to cut it. So we did some more experimentations. We moved on to the Space Plane 6. Once again, same internal body, this time with more tanks on there to allow for more fuel. And we now have these littler, or I should say smaller, engines here. But these are also jet engines that are highly efficient in atmospheric flight. And so I kind of came up with this little wing design because by this point it was already wide enough that throwing on any more wings there would just be so much extra space. So kind of have the fuel coming out here. The only problem is when this thing really starts getting going, these engines start bending out like that. And that's no good. So that also didn't work. As you see here, we have a thrust to weight of 1.7, which is pretty good, and if we take off all the thrust here, we have thrust to weight of over 1. So this actually could lift off vertically. This was a much better design than we had gotten to in Space Plane 5. So now we go into Space Plane 7. This was an interesting iteration. This was basically the same design, but with much better thrust-to-weight ratio in the end. A lot of it actually is the same. Did I just... Oh, I might have recopied over it. There were more designs. I feel like this actually had... Yeah, this was copied over. Shoot. Oh, Space Plane 7. Rest in peace. Yeah, Space Plane 7 was a little bit more like this, but still in the Mach 1 and Mach 2 era. But eventually I realized that I needed to increase my mass if I wanted this to work at all. So now we have a much easier payload bay to work with. You know, we can have a much larger holding tank. We can actually afford the decent drill-o-matic instead of that tiny little one. We don't need to rely on that big... cumbersome communications dish. We can just have this one that kind of folds out, and we don't have to have any hinges for our telescope, which is nice. But oh, I think that doubled up. Anyways, so here, as you see, we have engines clipped through and pointed down and attached onto the side, and it's just, even with our whole thing's going full. Oh, yeah, that was the other problem. Not only does it need to lift off the surface, but it needs to be able to fly to space. It needs to be an SSTO, and even with all these engines right here, the weight of it brings its thrust to weight down significantly. This thing is not gonna fly, and so even if our vertical takeoff is good, if it can't fly forward, it is a failure. And that is what took me the most time throughout this whole process, is balancing which engines can give me better performance versus which engines will weigh more, balancing the thrust, the center of thrust to the center of mass was also another thing. So as you see here, we've got, with just our vertical engines, we have a thrust to weight of 1.18, which is actually pretty decent. This one was okay at vertical takeoff, but without these turning sideways and adding to the horizontal thrust, this is just not powerful enough. That's where Spaceplane 7 came in. It was basically this, but each of these were kind of on servos, so they would all turn. So once it was done lifting off vertically, they would turn horizontally and add to the thrust that way. But that many servos with that much weight makes it very awkward. All right, so that was Spaceplane 8, which brings us to the 9th and final spaceplane, not known as Spaceplane 9, but actually Plane 9 for outer space. And so this is the one that actually works. This is the best of all the worlds, all the tests that I've done. Throughout all those versions, I didn't show you any of the versions that had this theory in mind, but I did play around with this for a little bit. And this is having my vertical engines tucked away inside a fairing or a service bay, so that way when they're not being used, they don't add to the aerodynamic drag of it all. I want to thank the people who came by my stream when I was working on the VTOL planes the first time, and gave me a bunch of tips, which I really appreciated, and it helped out considerably. So now, before I go and show off this craft, which is what we're going to do with the rest of the episode today, just wanted to show a little bit of what I learned in building the VTOL and building this one in particular. And that is, when you're trying to build something that can go vertically, you need to pay attention to the center of thrust and make it, I'm going to say, line up with the center of mass, but I'm going to adjust that in a few moments. But one way that you can do that is come here in the back and turn off all the throttle on each of these engines, like so. There we go. And then you just check the last ones. All right, because those are all in symmetry mode. So now that is the center of thrust is only calculating these engines right here. And so now that shows us that our center of thrust is slightly behind our center of mass, and that's why I said I'm going to change it. And that's because it does take this, on a smaller craft, you're going to want that more in line, but there's some caveats to that we can discuss at another time, because that's a little more specific to smaller crafts. But on a large craft like this, I found it better to have it slightly behind, because you do lose some of the fuel as you build up speed, and then by the time you're really cruising, you want it to be right there. In fact, I might turn that down just slightly more. I'm still not perfected on the design. That's the problem, is I really wanted to have this absolutely perfect before starting the episode today, but like I mentioned before, it's already like 2.5-3 hours past when the episode was supposed to come out, and so I figured, rather than perfection, show you what I got. So that is all I need to show you with the vertical ascent. And then the other thing that you need to pay attention to, let's open all of these, is, so that's 60. We're going to lower all the thrust on these as well. And then I have one in the center here. And that one, oh, that's also 60. Okay, good to know. All right, so now we've limited, so there's no thrust in any of this. As you see, we actually have no delta V, but now we turn these back on. All of the rear engines. So once you've gotten your vertical engines situated, you turn on your horizontal engines again. Make sure that your center of thrust is centered. Typically you're fine, but see, I kind of manually put these ones in there, so there's a chance that they won't line up correctly. Oh, my fins aren't lined up correctly. But anyways, I have a thrust to weight of 67 here, which isn't great. And so what you end up having to do then is balance out the fuel. Yeah, we still need... Yeah, I'm not gonna play around with that too much. I just barely got it stable, so I'm not gonna play around with that. But essentially, you want to make sure that your thrust to weight ratio is enough to keep your craft from stalling, and once we get going, it's enough to keep this from stalling, but it does take a second. This is a bit of a boat. And because I adjusted my thrust limiter on those lower ones to pinpoint where I wanted my center of thrust, I have to go back here through all the rear ones, limit that to 0 so I can get an accurate center of thrust over center of mass. There we go. Actually, you know what? That seems to be pretty good, I guess. Oh, you know what? Because I lowered this one to 60 and lowered that one to 60, it just evened out. Alright, that makes sense. Alright, so now the most important part to this whole process is that you go back through and put your thrust back on. Can you tell how tired I am of this? Is because I would constantly go out into simulation, run it, only to find that none of these back engines are firing because I forgot to limit the thrust, or forgot to turn the thrust back on. There you go. Closing all base. Alright, so we have 4 Kerbals in here. Pilot, 2 scientists, and an engineer. Doesn't really matter, but that is kind of going to be the roster that we take to Joule with KSP, so it's going to be the roster that we take to Eve here in POV. Because, once again, this plane is going to satisfy both series' interplanetary spaceplane needs, because it was so much just to get this one designed. I mean, with KSP, I could have used the design that they have because I don't need it to be vertically, but in POV, I do need it to be vertically. But in making it vertical, I ended up making the whole rest of it more advanced to begin with. Oh, where have my solar panels? My solar panels disappeared. Hold on. There we go. There we go. All right. That should be good. All right, so we're going to save that. Our IVA that we're using is the DE plus MAS Near Future Digital. There's not a lot of options for the Mach 3 cockpit. I don't love it, but it is what it is, and we will deal with it. So let's go ahead and run a simulation. Let me show you how this flies, and then we'll keep going from there. Like I mentioned, I'm still in the simulation phase to make sure that this mission can go off without a hitch. I'm not... Oh, there's my solar panels. That's weird. I'm not incredibly confident in this, and I really don't want to lose my Kerbals. So we are still in the simulation phase, but let's go ahead and simulate together. Alright, so here we are on the runway at the POV Proving Grounds, and as you see here, we have a very big problem in our runway, and that is the whole reason why we need the VTOL in the first place. Wow, you are just moving, even with the brakes on. Alright, let's just get this going. We're going to open our cargo bay doors, turn on our vertical engines, throttle them up. Ooh, turn my volume down. And we're also going to kick on the horizontal engines because we do need a little bit of that boost to keep us stable. So a lot of smoke and dust being kicked up around the plane. It does make it a little bit hard to look at. But as you can see here, we are taking off vertically. I did look up whether or not it was still considered a VTOL if it was also moving forward, and it does. It is. So this technically satisfies the first part, the VTOL. Now we need to see if it can be an SSTO. So what we do is we build up a little bit of forward momentum, trying to pitch down and make sure we're not going up too far, and then once we get fast enough, we're going to drop our vertical engines and then and then fly off of our horizontal entirely right about now. All right, so we're gonna kind of hold, and hopefully we don't dip down too far. If we do, we can kick our engines back on and level ourselves out. So this one was a lot harder of a flight. Yeah, we need to level ourselves out a little bit. This one was a little bit harder to fly than the one in KSP. It's a little more of a boat. But alright, we're about to pass 300 meters per second, so I'm going to kill the horizontal engines again. And we're actually going to close our bay doors. Help with our aerodynamics. There we go. We seem to... Oh, you know what? I didn't have atmospheric autopilot on. That's why it was a little hard to control. Alright, so now we are relatively stable. We're gaining speed, but we do have a problem, and that is we're heading north. And that's because that's just how the proving grounds is set up. Our runway points north, unfortunately. So now we are going to try to bank our way over to the east and try to build up enough speed to get out into space, and then hopefully we have enough fuel to circularize our orbit. So let's continue this. I'm going to talk just slightly less, I feel. As I say that, I feel like I have more things coming on. But yeah, this is basically where I'm at in my testing so far, and that is I need to now break the barriers of space. I got into space in my last test, but I forgot to have my engines on an action group to toggle their mode to switch into closed cycle, and therefore I just messed up. And at that point I looked over at the clock and I'm like, you know what, you're coming with me. All y'all, you're gonna watch me do my final test, and hopefully, like, I've done so much building, rebuilding, redesigning, tweaking, adjusting, balancing. Just the balancing of this craft is ridiculous, but I've done so much of that I feel like I'm just close. It's just a matter of finding the right flight profile, mastering our ascent. So now at 1400 meters per second, we're going to start tilting up. We only got 5 minutes of fuel remaining at this altitude, but some of that sometimes changes once we get a little bit higher. These engines right here are nuclear power, so they don't require any oxidizer. We do have a little oxidizer on here, I believe. No, we don't. We did. In one of our versions we did, but... Alright, so now we're taking kind of an aggressive stance towards our ascent, really powering towards that 45 degree mark. But as you see, we are... we're losing speed, but then at some point we do start picking up speed. And so about this place I want to just hold. And then hopefully our engines will have enough thrust to push us to the high enough altitude that we can break into space. As you see here, we are now having a much longer burn time because we becoming a little more efficient. All right. It's a nice shot right there. There we go. We are going to pitch down a little bit, which should... Did they switch over? Yes, they did. All right, so now they're in closed cycle. These ones aren't. These ones are all air breathing. That's okay. That's okay. Still picking up speed. I want to change these to closed cycle, but I'm afraid of off balancing. Well, we are now in space, so we're actually going to kill our engine, which now can make us, gives us the ability to change these. I had these on an action group, but they were all on an action group, and apparently these ones change automatically, so that's good to know. All right, so at an 80 kilometer apoapsis, we will circularize. It takes 554 delta V. It says we only have 211. Oh, that's because we're in the atmosphere. Okay. So we're gonna execute, and some of you may be asking yourself, "Hey, I thought I was watching KSP POV. Why are we watching this space plane in third person?" Well, that is because, like I mentioned before, I need a master. I need to master this ascent. I have been practicing flying it in POV mode. Look at that. I have been practicing flying it in POV mode, but I have not gotten a successful orbit and all that yet. So I want to get that first. But if this one successfully works out, right? If this flight right now works out, then we're just gonna do it again, and I'm gonna do it in POV mode because that's where we're at. If we can get it settled. All right, 68, 69, and we are in space. Our maneuver is executed, and it says we don't have enough delta V. See, this is the problem that I am having. So these are all closed cycle. Those are all closed cycle. Everything. Oh yeah, so the problem is having the delta V to the fuel and delta V to circularize once we get up here. See, we have this liquid fuel. Is that all the liquid fuel we have? Yeah. We got a little bit more burn time out of that. Yeah, this isn't gonna work, unfortunately. That's the nuclear power that'll take us. And the thing is this thing holds a whole lot more fuel than we take off with. And the idea is that once we're in space, we'll refuel it, fill all that extra space, and take it to the planets. But that's not going to happen today. Our periapsis is not even above the surface. So let's see. You know what? I haven't tested re-entry yet. Let's take a quick second, do a little bit of re-entry, and see where we go from there. Why is my RCS not working? We have monopropellant. That's weird. This game can be so gratifying when you get it right, but the frustration that comes until that time is maddening. Alright, let's check out our other action groups right now. Alright, so that one opens our cargo bay. This one unfolds our solar panels and our communication dish. Nice. That's activated to Kerbin. Oh, it doesn't activate that though. Okay, so it does need to add that. Six. Oh, that 6 just puts that back. 7 is our ScanSat ability. We need to do this at 500 kilometers above the surface, but it does this visual one, which is funny because it just gets blocked by that. This one, which is like altimeter and biome, and then another one, which is a resource scanner. So hopefully we can get accurate information about every single place we visit, giving us a good idea of what to do when we get there. 8 is the drill and heat. As you see here, we got drill going down, but we're gonna go ahead and pull that back out. Hopefully, no, 0. There we go. I'm gonna pull that back out because there's nothing to do that with. And action group 9 just starts the fuel making process. So then 5 is the bay doors. Yes, it is. Perfect. All right, so we are ready for re-entry. Let's go ahead and see how this thing handles. Also got a downwards facing camera, backwards facing camera, front, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, so I haven't even tested. Oh shoot, I haven't even tested to see if this thing flies on Eve yet. That will be the question. The original space plane I made for KXP did fly on lathe, which was a very important aspect. But I haven't tested this new one yet, and certainly haven't tested it on Eve, where it will be. That's fun. That is really stable. I'm not even touching the controls or anything. I don't really know what to do with this. Yeah, it wasn't pitching down in the slightest. But it does still fly in the atmosphere. I don't exactly know how these engines work. I feel like it doesn't require any liquid fuel in atmosphere to work, and I don't know why that is. But that's why I like them so much. It's a free plane. Yeah, this is really back heavy, I guess. Yep, so this is not gonna work. Not gonna work. So we go once again back to the drawing board, turning off all the thrust on all of our back. This is just how it goes. This is a process. This is what I've been doing for day in and day out these past few days and nights, and I woke up this morning just thinking about ways that I could balance this craft. All right, so we turn all those off so we can get another good idea of our vertical thrust. And when we add more liquid fuel in to the front, and it pushes our weight there, and then we add more liquid fuel into here. So that gives us 19 minutes of burn time. 12,000 delta V. You better be right. All right, and then we... See, I don't know if we should even mess around with that because, all right, so now we have our vertical. I mentioned in my stream when we were working on this that I talk a lot of what I do through my own head, and this is why I cut out a lot of my build process in things, in the testing process. It's just back and forth, me just questioning like, oh, but if I do this, will that work? No, that doesn't work. If I do this, will that work? And nobody needs that. So this is... For anybody who didn't join the stream, this is a little peek in my building process. It's just a lot of trial and error and asking nobody in particular. All right, so now we've gotten our vertical thrust situated. We have enough to get off the ground. Let's check out our horizontal thrust. And once again, that is abysmal. 61? 0.61? Oof. All right, well... So now what do we do? So now let's limit some of this fuel. Let's see if that helps. No, it doesn't. Shoot. Yeah, see at this point that's when I start getting really frustrated because now our lift is good, but that is not if we remove this fuel, that's still not a lot. Remove all that fuel, it drops us down to 8,000 delta V. Well, you don't need a thrust-to-weight ratio of over 1 in order to fly. You just need to have enough speed not to stall. Are these angled? Those are angled. This is not right. Okay. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. You just never know. All right, let's close all the bays. We know we need to turn those throttles back on. Just back and forth, back and forth. All right, so I'm gonna get this all throttled up and I will meet you on the runway. Okay, back at it. Atmospheric autopilot, bay doors open. It's just a little bit unstable. Probably use with little struts there. Anyways, kick on all of our engines. I'm not getting any audio from this. I'm getting way too much audio from this. Turn that down. All right. I feel like there was audio earlier, but maybe not. Anyways, let's kick on our engines. You know, let's hop into POV mode. Get our screen set up. Yeah, so this is essentially what it would be. And we would be watching that bump right there, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of height before we hit it. Oh, we hit it. That's no good. That's okay, we can straighten ourselves out, bring in our landing gear, and keep flying. Alright. You know what, I'm gonna add a little bit of a tilt to this. We're gonna hold on to the D key to start to turn. Oh, what is that? Engine overheat. That's no good. Thank you warning. It's not. Which engine's overheating? Why are you overheating out of all of them? Well, you know what? We could probably kill our vertical engines now. Got so distracted with the overheating warning. Okay, well, that's weird. I do, for full transparency, I do have the ignore max temperature cheat on because throughout all my testing, certain parts, even if I had them tucked in aero or in service bays, would just burn up for some reason, and it made no sense. It wasn't even parts that were I felt like that had heat tolerances. I don't know, but anyways, back into it. All right. So now we need to get ourselves pointed in the right direction, and to do so without losing so much delta V that we can't circularize. It's good to see our thrust to weight is actually above 1 even with our vertical engines off. We do need to keep an eye on our altitude. Oh, come on. Where's our flight? There's our flight. Again, engine overheat. We're going to ignore that. There's going to be some... Ooh, he's not happy. Oh, we are close. We are close. Oh. Yeah, when I do this mission for real, I'm not going to be as distracted. Okay, back at it. Cargo bay doors open. All engines on. Throttle up. Atmospheric autopilot engaged. And hopefully we don't hit the bump this time. I think we just wasted too much time before. I want to put some cameras on the wings, I think. Get another view from there. Alright, are we gonna hit it again? I think we are, because of the fact that we now have extra weight due to that fuel. But if I lift my nose a little bit, it's not a problem. It is a problem. Why is it a problem? What did you hit? Tail fin. Alright, so we need slightly less fuel. Grr. Back and forth, back and forth. Alright. No, slightly less fuel than before. Hopefully that'll give it enough of a lift to make it over that hill. I'm not going to bother with first person mode just yet. I'm just gonna get this flight down. I feel like we're close. I feel like this episode is gonna be entitled something about the frustrations of this, because it was quite frustrating, but it's been very cool actually. Like, I've enjoyed this whole process, the challenge of building something like this, seeing it actually work. The first time I saw one of these things take off vertically, intentionally. Oh, look at this. Oh, we're starting to clear. We are getting a little bit of upwards momentum, so we do need to pitch over a little bit, but that was smooth. Easily cleared that hill. Alright. So we've got 12 minutes. It says that we've only got 4,000 meters per second delta V. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but we'll see what kind of fuel we have in. Let's turn off our vertical engines for now. Stabilize ourselves. We're going to close our bay doors in the hopes that we have enough speed currently to not stall, but it's not looking like it. Alright, you know what? No, bay doors open again. Come on. Come on, bay doors open. Engines on. Okay. That is... Yeah, see, it's a bit tricky. And the thing is that if it was a small plane, this wouldn't be so hard, you know? If it was just a tiny thing, if it was only a little Mach 1 cabin with just one of these big nuclear engines and a couple of these little air-breathing ones, no problem at all. Alright, now I think we're good. Around the 300 meters per second mark. Do we have atmospheric on? No, we didn't. Alright. So, I wonder if we just take a polar orbit. I feel like that might be harder to get into orbit, but I mean, we haven't. We'll try it next time. Let's see. Let's just see if we've got enough delta V now to manage. Yeah, when I do episodes normally, I talk in very factual. This is this. This is that. We are doing this. This is the goal. But in my simulations, everything's a question. Everything is like, can I do this? Is this gonna work? What's the cost? You know. Alright, it's 23 minutes of burn time, it says. Alright, so now it's just, let's pick up speed and try to break the atmosphere with more fuel this time. We are getting dangerously close to the water. Gotta pull up. Pull up. There we go. It is useful to fly at low altitudes, though, to build up that speed. I'm not sure exactly the science behind it, but something about the airflow. Air is thinner, higher altitudes, so takes more, I guess. Anyways. Once we hit the 1400 mark, we're going to start pitching up. If we can hit the 1500 mark, that'd be even better. Yeah, look at that. And I don't want to waste too much fuel. Oh, there's a little bit of shaking going on there. Yeah, struts. I think struts are the last part I need to attach this. Everything is auto-strutted. Except for the hinges that are present. I think there's only one hinge on this design. There were many more in previous ones. Ended up having to simplify it, and that's why we ended up going bigger. Bigger ended up being simpler. Alright, this is actually faring pretty well. And I'd say right about there. That's the angle. Alright, we shall see. Oh, so we don't need to have change mode on an action group at all. It just handles it. That's cool to see. Alright. So it's saying we only have 800 delta V left. That is not encouraging. Okay, but this is encouraging. We might just be able to get to space with this design. just barely. And then we send up a craft to refuel it. We can do this. This might work. My RCS is still not working though. Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get ourselves pointed towards our node. Oh, this is exciting. All right, so I guess the other test we could do is, could we get this into a polar orbit more easily? Because at least for the KSP crowd, that would be a little more convenient. I feel like we could save a little bit of more fuel by not having to do that banking procedure. Alright, so we're just going to get ourselves to our apoapsis, and hopefully the circularizes. It'll leave us with just barely enough fuel. We are like circularizing just barely in space too. Only 72 kilometers above the surface. There we go. Oh, look at that. All right, so this will work out. I mean, you know, it barely works. It barely squeaks in, but it has a clampetron right here on the front, so we can refuel it fairly easily. And with that camera change, we are now in orbit. Got 100,000. If we can get this into space, we get 100,000 funds. Nice. Go ahead and open the bay doors. Extend this. Oh, this still needs to be added to the action group. There is our solar panels. Where's our other solar panels? They rip off? No, nothing tore off, so that's good. Our other solar panels are gone. Okay, so we're gonna do another simulation. We're gonna do a quick look at something. All right, atmospheric autopilot on, bay doors open, all engines on, throttle up. And we're just gonna take a polar jaunt and see if we end up with any more delta V upon our final orbital burn. There we go. And it looks like we're starting to lift. That's good. Pull up our landing gear. Also good. Sean Ben is not too happy, but that's okay. He's an engineer, not a pilot. Valentina, how are you doing? Oops, looking at the wrong person. Valentina? Yeah, see, she's in control. She knows what she's doing. Okay, so now what's our surface speed? Only 147. We're going to kick off our vertical engines for a second. Point this way a little bit more. Kick them back on. And I put one of the engines, that center one, I put it right near the camera so I can get an idea. I can physically see when my engine is, my vertical engines are burning. Wish I had one to show the bay door as well, but currently, oh, we are starting to Twist the side. Why are you doing that? Alright, let's kick off that. What is with the control? Why are you losing control? That was very weird. This whole process is so weird and frustrating. (288 meters per second) speed, so I feel like we are doing okay to keep ourselves upright, but we are coming down, so we do need to start lifting. Lifting a lot more than that. Oh, okay. All right, yeah, we're gaining altitude now. All right. We're gonna close our bay doors. I believe I did that right? Yeah. Yeah, I should also get another camera to show me when the bay doors are closing. Or if the drill is deployed. Both of those would be helpful to know. Dropping in altitude again. Need to start pitching up a little bit, but I do want to stay relatively close to the surface. I don't want to pitch up too much. Alright, that's starting to slow down. I'm starting to raise back up in altitude. Okay. Alright, so now it's just a matter of building up enough speed. I feel like this is a decent enough angle. We're not going to crash. We are accelerating. Alright, time to just kick back and enjoy the ride. Didn't you have a mustache? I'm losing my mind. Nobody has mustaches. What just happened? Alright, so the heating is now building up. Got Firefly going. Our speed is raising a lot more slowly. See if we can pull ourselves a little bit more to, ooh, high G warning. See if we can pull ourselves a little bit more prograde. Nope, lost control. And we are, whew. Oh, are we not toast? I thought we were toast. Oh, I wish I could have gotten a third-person view of that. That would have been so cool. Got my heart racing. All right. So with the thrust-to-weight ratio of 2 and higher, I feel like we should be having no problem building up enough speed to leave the atmosphere. But I feel like going north might not be the wisest option. I feel like we're fighting the rotation of the planet too much. You know, as you see here, our trajectory is off. Yep, and trying to point towards it, it's just throwing us all out of whack. Oh, can we pull it off again? No, we cannot. Well, everybody, that has been a great flight. unfortunately. Or fortunately, we're not dead. Look at that. Way to go, everybody. Oh. Oh. Here's a question. As we come to a nice, stable, flat landing, if we were to open our bay doors, activate our engines, maybe turn off our back engines, hit the throttle up, oh, that's so cool. We did destroy our exoplanet air intake, but we are raising off the surface. This is really cool. This was a really cool project, and I'm very happy I attempted it, and hopefully I'll master it. I'll be able to figure this out. We'll be able to get something good. I may end up having to just go smaller, you know, but I want to carry at least 3 Kerbals. I want to carry at least 3 Kerbals, and I want to have scan sats. I want to have a drill on there so it can refuel itself on other planets and just keep going through space. I want it to be like a one-stop shop craft for our Joule 5 and our Eve needs. Killing the vertical engines and stalling again. Yeah. This is a tricky thing to fly. Well, it's been fun. Oh, we lost. Yeah, we lost just the top of that. Okay. Yeah. So this does not take crashes very well. But we're gonna do one more test of this and see something, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so with this thing fully fueled, wow, it actually does have a lot of fuel in it already. So with this thing fully fueled, say we got it into orbit, and now we sent up our craft. We fueled it, everything's good, and we filled it to its max capacity that it can possibly have. What kind of delta V does that give us? Alright, is that the total capacity? Is there any fuel that I'm missing? Alright, that is definitely going to throw off our center of mass and all of that, but that's okay. I feel like we could actually get more fuel in here, but that's when you start losing the balance of these engines, once you start adding longer and longer bits to it. But maybe I'll play around with that later. So we have full tank gas, not a lot of information. Oh wait, if we, yeah, this is what we need to do. We need to toggle them all into closed cycle, and then that's how we'll know what kind of delta V we have in space. There we go. So even less? That makes no sense to me. I don't know what that means. Alright, well, let's put it back. Okay, well, according to Astrogator, with a full tank of gas, as we see here, basically just a full tank of gas. Okay, I'm missing some oxidizer somewhere. Where? Guess not. Anyways, my point stands. We placed in a maneuver for Eve, and as you see here, it says that it'll only cost us, well, all of the delta V that we have. Okay, so that is exactly what we needed to find out. Let's back this up for a second. What if we do that for joule. Even less. Alright. Well, the goal for today's episode was to make a vertical takeoff and landing plane. To make one that can get to space in a single stage. And as far as that goes, job well done, successful. This worked. This design infuriated me getting to this point. But let's come around to the brighter side of the planet. There we go. So yeah, this design was awful to make. It took so long, so much of my time and brain power working on each of these designs over and over, just making tiny adjustments, tweaking here and there. But all in all, it still is not going to satisfy what we want it to do. So unfortunately, we are going to have to take another stab at this, make sure that it has enough fuel capacity for the Delta V required for an interplanetary trip, not just to Eve, but to Joule as well. We still have yet to even test the mining apparatus on this, that will hopefully be allowing us to refuel our craft on a whim. So if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to think about that as well. But anyways, that is where I'm gonna leave today's episode. I wish I could have successfully shown you another planet today. That was the goal, but well, no, the goal was to get this up into space. That was the goal. The goal for the series is that the next episode of KXP, I would like to get us to another planet. However, due to the difficulty of creating such a device, a single stage to orbit, vertical takeoff, space plane capable of interplanetary travel, refueling, and return, that's the challenge. But anyways, that's where I'm going to leave today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for more KSP POV. If you did think about subscribing, drop me a like, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.